light heavyweights looking to make it into the rankings. Kennedy Nzechukwu looking to make it 3 wins in a row. He's going to be taking on 15-fight UFC vet, the former RFA champ, Devin Brown Bear Clark.
Isn't it wild that he's got to 15 fights? Like, to me, it only feels like Devin Clark's been around for like a year and a half.
The guy, yeah, he fights every single weekend. And when you do look at it, I mean, this is really weird. And I think a lot of honesty goes a long way in a fight like this. And Fight Night Picks fans hate this, but I'm going to do it nonetheless. It's really easy to preview both of these guys. It's really hard to predict both of these guys. And I'll go off of my own analysis. We've had pretty well the same picks for Devin Clark. You've had a better gauge, I guess, pick-wise on Kennedy Nzechukwu, but I feel like the previews have been there. So I'm going to say this. With Devin Clark, when he's fought, from Dequan Townsend on, I pick Clark, Menefield, Smith, Clark, and Jung. I'm 3-4 in picking Devin Clark fights from Townsend on. Picking Kennedy and Nzechukwu fights, I had Alberg, Marquez, Jung, Nikolai, Nzechukwu, Kutselaba. I'm 3-3 picking Kennedy fights. So I'm at below 500 by one fight, picking both of these guys. But here's what I can tell you about their fighting styles. Kennedy and Nzechukwu's gotten better takedown defense slightly as his UFC career has progressed, but he's gained more confidence in his own fighting skills. And from Kennedy fighting his first time on Dana White's Contender Series to now, there are some things that have gotten better. Saud yells at him.
He does.
Every single
Gets
time.
after him.
And tells him to get into the fights. And even if you look at it for Kennedy in this recent string, Iwan Kutsalaba, between round 1 and round 2, the quotable that he had in that one was, you felt his strength, you lost that round, and then you got to go back in there. And it was odd, I found, because Saif, between round 1 and round 2, after Kutsalaba was trying to take him down and land all his big power shots, Saif said, you can land your own takedowns. You can go out there and do that if you want to, or if you're going to have strength, make him feel your power. I found that surprising because against alleged bad guy, Carl Robertson, Kennedy was the one that went out there and initiated all the takedowns and had tons of success with his grappling. So in a fight against Kutsalaba, it wasn't necessarily his takedowns that found him the success. It was just going out there, landing the power, doing what he needed to do. For Devin Clark, we talked about it earlier, like Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Devin Clark has those good fights. He has those really bad fights. Against Azamat Murzakanov, who apparently is a wrecking ball, in that fight, every time Murzakanov landed, whether it was to the body, which is where the finish was, or that big left overhand, Clark had terrible reactions. Against Alonzo Menefield, he got his grill all beaten up.
And that's the thing, if Kennedy starts to land on him and he does kind of turtle away, Kennedy can just start rolling downhill and kind of flurry and TKO him out of it.
That's where the game of MMA math plays it weird, because for Kennedy against Dao Jung, he just kind of stood there in the middle and got hit. And when Devin Clark took on Dao Jung, with the exception of a knee, Clark went out there and wrestled him and had a lot of success, even with his own hands. So again, I have a really hard time breaking this one down to make a pick, but I can preview it fairly well, I think.
I think Devin Clark's going to have a really hard time on the outside if he's not able to land those leg kicks, though. And again, leg kicks have always been a big focal point of his game on the feet because he's not a striker who's really going to wow you. He throws good boxing combinations. There's a big reset to them. He doesn't have like one-of-one power. He's a powerful striker, don't get me wrong.
It's a non-committal 1-2 where he kind of ducks out.
Exactly. It's just, there's a lot to be desired on the feet. And if Kennedy is really flowing with his combinations, I think he is in a different class of a striker than a fighter like Devin Clark. So for Clark, he's really going to have to use those leg kicks to get Kennedy out of his game, because even if Kennedy's not throwing a lot of strikes offensively, he still moves well on the feet for a guy who's 6'5". Like, he is huge for the weight class. I cannot stress this enough.
But Matt, have we checked him with the tape measure to see if he's really 6'5"?
No, we have not. But again, just looking at the man, he is a tall and large individual. And again, when he is the one flowing, and that is the key, when he's the confident guy in there, using his skills to the best of his abilities, he carries his power late, he does have pretty good output when he's throwing his combinations, and he throws with good accuracy. That is the one thing about him. Once he is starting to flow downhill, he's not going to miss a lot of shots and waste a lot of movement. That's what I worry about with Devin Clark. If he starts to eat those initial couple shots, if Kennedy sees a guy starting to move away from him, that's just going to help him gain more confidence and let him get more into the fight. So it does really come down to, how is Devin Clark going to absorb that punishment? Is he going to answer with takedown attempts? Is he going to answer with his own strikes? Because if he is answering with takedown attempts, I think he could have some success just by getting his head out of danger, and maybe he can complete some of those takedown attempts. I just don't know if Devin Clark's going to be able to have a lot of success in the feet in this match.
And we know Devin Clark's lineage as a collegiate wrestler.
Exactly.
And we also know the fact that Kennedy Nzechukwu actually has 80% takedown defense so far in his UFC career. Long, wide base, keeps guys off, gets the underhook, backs out of the way. And we remember the fight that he had against Danilo Marques where he had to rally back. Danilo Marques beat Yorgan de Castro at heavyweight on a few days' notice with PFL. I wonder how the PFL feel about that one. But when you look at a guy like Nzechukwu, the long-range striking attacks, the big head kicks that he has when he's flowing with his boxing combinations is great. If he gets out of first gear. If he doesn't, it's like the Dawoon Jung fight or,
Well, it's like what we just said about Khaos Williams. Again, you hate to kind of repeat the same thing, but Khaos Williams has two versions. He's going to throw a lot of bombs or he's going to be very defensive. For Kennedy, he might not have the same kind of defensive hands-up style, but it is that low output, not really engaging a lot, kind of just staying on the outside.
For me, I had it, the best version and the best attribute that Kennedy has is resilience. He never gives up on himself and he always stays in the fight, but you look at the fights that he has. I'd say best version is against Kutsalaba. Doesn't get worried, weathers a storm, second round goes out, gets a finish, gets a performance bonus. He got a performance bonus against Marquez, threatening off of the back, doesn't get submitted.
And that was the weird main event against Kutsalaba, right? Where it got moved up on the last second's notice. That was just a weird...
Kennedy and Nzechukwu coming off a 3-round main event.
When the lights shine brightest, Kennedy shows up.
And then he also had the fight in the night against Carlos Alberg, where resilience after the first round almost got finished on the feet, and then he rallies in the second. If you look at it for Clark, I had best version. I said either the William Knight fight at heavyweight,
the Rakic fight,
or the fight that he had against the Quan Townsend where he just absolutely dominated both those guys. But that's the thing for Clark, he beats guys that aren't in the rankings and he loses the guys that end up in the rankings. So it really is tough with Devin Clark when you look through it. The odds at open, Kennedy and Nzechukwu plus 115. It reset really quick to minus 210. And if you look at it for Clark, on the flip side, open minus 135, plus 165. That quick reset. So it could have been the way that it is now as it was, if that makes any sense. When you look at the Topology votes, Matt, as I speak in riddles and rhymes, I'm going to say over under 70% Kennedy and Nzechukwu.
I think it'll be over.
It's going to be over. It's over. 721 total votes, 83% Kennedy, 82% by knockout. For the 17% that have Clark, 80% by decision. Matt, Kennedy just beat Ion Kutsalaba, who has some skills that are similar to a Devin Clark. Therefore, he wins?
I think so.
You think so?
Yeah, I really do. Again, when Kennedy gets out of that first gear, and I know that's a big if, he is a more devastating striker than Devin Clark. And Devin Clark does have weird power. Again, I don't bring up the Rakic loss as like a joke. Like, he did look kind of good in the first round. He hurt Rakic. The leg kicks were landing. It's just not really sustainable enough on the feet for him. So I favor Kennedy in a lot of the striking engagements. And like you said, his takedown defense is quite good. And he does land good strikes when he's defending takedowns. And I think all of that could get him a win against Clark.
I have no confidence in a 2-1 Kennedy and Nzechukwu. He struggles in the first round with some of these early takedown attempts from fighters. Devin Clark has more of a 3-round gas tank than some of these other guys that have attempted these things, and for that reason I'm going with Devin Clark in the matchup. I know he's a pretty big underdog, but I think he's got that motor to continue to work some of those takedowns, working in the clinch, and have success in a matchup like this. So we're split on the pick. I'm 3-4 lifetime picking Devin Clark fights, and I'm picking him in this one. Matt going with Kennedy and Nzechukwu to get the win. Let us know down below in the comment section on a really tricky one on this card here. And then after that, we're starting to move into some big-time bangers. Drew Dober is taking on Matt Frevola. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.